Hello, so here's hopefully a quick video walking through creating some little corner pieces that will hopefully let assembling the little library be an easier process. So this will just kind of hold pieces of wood in place while glue is drying. And I'm going off of a little blueprint plan that was published by the little library organization that creates these things, and it has a couple odd dimensions on there that I might change for the actual design. So this 49 degrees, this is the one that's kind of a bit odd, and I think it just is from the size of wood that they have that they ended up using that odd degree. So I'm trying to use standard dimensions for everything else, 2 inches. I've got 3/4 inch plywood, use 1/4 inch walls around this little thing. So looking down at the top of it, we're going forward, and this is the 0.75 and then 1/4 inch walls. So we'll get 1.25 over here, 1.25, and then out, it's going to come out 3.5. And if you add this 1 1/4, 1 1/4, so you get 2.5 tall. So just kind of this L bracket. And I think that might be an easier way to start, is to kind of make this L bracket to start out with. So opening up a new file, and I'm pulling up a template that I created before. So review those template notes and how to save your DWT so that when you first start this thing, you don't need to redefine any of your layers. You have your dimension styles set up and all of that good stuff. Good. And what I actually did for this one is I pulled in this basic design just right into Excel. Sometimes getting all of those points in just the right location, it's easier to do that messing around with those points in Excel than using modify tools and not really seeing, like, you can use these coordinates down here, but sometimes it's just easier to get those into Excel. So starting at the origin, 0, 0, 1.250, 1.25, 1.25, and then out to that 3.5. So there's that 3.5, and then up 1 1/4. So this goes up to 2.5 here, and then back around and closed. And how you get these points into AutoCAD, if you review those Excel notes, I'm going to combine the 2 columns with concat. So I have the first number, comma, quote, comma, quote. That's actually I'm trying to just get that comma between the numbers, and then comma and the next number. It's a lot of little commas, but it's a little string that's only holding a comma in there. So that's the concat function. And then you want to go ahead, Control-C to copy that. And to get just a number out of this thing rather than the full concat, there's a special way to copy this. Control-C. I'm going to add an Alt into this. Control-Alt-V. And that allows me to paste not the entire formula and everything in there. I just want to paste the numerical values, because that is what CAD wants. So CAD doesn't want, equals concat and a whole function. They just want a number in there. So if you look up here in the bar, I now have just numbers. So looking down at the top of this view, I'm going to go ahead and not the line command, but the P line. Remember, polyline is going to connect all of my line segments into one shape, so I won't have to join these in the future. So I'm going to say P-line, enter, and where it says specify starting point, I'm going to come over here, Control-C, now that I have those as numbers, and Control-V, enter. So I now have that nice little library kind of pulled in over here. Okay, for the next piece of this, and there's a couple different ways to do this, but what I thought might be best is to pull it up kind of this strange height over here. So I have this 3.31 height to to the very, and then later on I will just take this corner and subtract it off of the rest of it. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude the whole thing up a height of 3.31. I'm also not going to carve out the inside of this yet. I'll show you that shell command, and I'm going to use the shell command to carve out the inside of it. So here we go. Extrude. Remember, before you extrude, make sure that you have one joined polyline and not individual lines. Otherwise, you get a shell and you don't get a solid. So extrude, enter. Clicking this thing that's all nice and joined together, enter, and I'm going to bring it up that 3.31 height. So now if I rotate it, and you can kind of change some views here just to make sure that you have a solid chunk and not a surface. So the next thing that we want to do is carve away this corner. To do that, I'm going to have to move where my XY plane is, and that is done with the user coordinate system, UCS command. So UCS, enter, and it says specify the origin. I'm going to make sure I've got my snap settings on so that it will attach itself to the corner here. Snap. And then I'm also going to make sure I have my ortho snap on so that it is going to pull to 90-degree angles. So you put the origin place, now it says specify point on the x-axis. So I'm going to pull over my x-axis here. And next is, where's a point on the xy plane? And to do that, it's kind of like pulling the y-axis into place. So three things: origin, x-axis, y-axis. And make sure you have your ortho snap on so it's perfectly 90 degrees, lined up perfectly, and then your snap settings so you can grab those corners. Okay, so now we're set up to be able to maybe pull off that corner. I'm actually just going to give myself a little rectangle here to pull that off of. So going from 0, 0 to, let's see, I guess with how this is in here, that would be 2.5. If you're kind of struggling to see where those coordinates are, you can kind of hover around and you can get those coordinates down here. Remember the three lines, if you click on the three lines, that will pull up so that you can get those coordinates in here. Sometimes you have to kind of reorient your brain to make sure you're getting those coordinates in there right. So now I have a rectangle that is lined up at the front, and what I want to get is a line down here that is going to get kind of this 49 degrees. So I want to snap a line across that corner that is 49 degrees. Now this is where you can actually customize your snap settings. So I have a snap setting here that goes with like 10 degrees, 5 degrees, 30 degrees. How this works, let me just show you with the 30 degrees. So if I start up a line command here, and I have the snap setting set to 30 degrees, so you can kind of see it snapping to these different angles, right? Oh, that's my 90 degrees. Let's turn on my 30 degrees. There we go. Okay, so just to see, so that's going to be 90. There's 60 degrees. There's 30 degrees. 0 degrees. So we have to figure out how to put these in so that we can get that 49 degrees kind of off of this corner. Okay, so pay attention to which is 0 degrees. So coming off straight to the left is our 0 degrees. And if we're moving down and we want 45 degrees off of that vertical So what we're actually going to have to do here, so if this is 0 degrees and then coming around kind of the clockwise direction, so that's 180 degrees, or coming down is then going to be, is it letting me go straight down? So yeah, just it's clockwise from the left. So 0 degrees, 180 degrees. So what we want here, let's just get our Excel out. So if we have 270 would be straight down, and I don't want straight down, I want this crazy 49 degrees. Okay, so we want it to actually snap to 221 degrees to get straight down. So I'm going to change this tracking settings, and I'm going to select new, and I'm going to put in 221 degrees. So whatever angle you want to snap to, whether you have just an oddly shaped piece of plywood that you're trying to line up, so that's kind of nice that you can customize your snap settings. I'm going to come up here, and I now have this very strange 221 degrees in my snap settings, and I can do a line here and grab a hold of this, and I can now create a line at that very strange 49 degrees. This is whenever you're designing something like a standard 45, 90, 30, 10 degrees, it'll be a lot easier for everybody to just use. And just to be sure, dim angular, let's make sure we have that crazy 49 degrees there. And we're looking at this from the back side, but yes, that is 49 degrees. Okay, that was a lot of struggle to get that strange angle in there, but hopefully that was useful, that you can click on your snapping settings, tracking settings, and then new, and you can define any angle you want and then have the angle snap to any angle you want. So that's a pretty nifty little thing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and trim a few things out. So I don't need this entire rectangle here. What I really need is this triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and take this triangle and join it to this other piece here. And for this one, I'm going to extrude it and then subtract it. So extrude. And now that my triangle is nice and joined together, select object. I don't have to make it exactly one length. In fact, it's kind of easier to select it if I overshoot it. So I've created this thing. So now I actually have two different solids. I have that original solid, and I also have a triangle. So how the subtract command, it's like 5 minus 3 equals 2. So you take what you want to keep, enter, and then what you want to get rid of, enter. So subtract, enter, and I'm going to select the object I want to keep first. So this is the bulk of what I want to keep, enter, and then what I want to carve away from it. It's like a CNC machine. Okay, so there we go. That was the most challenging part of this, is to get that roof carved out. So celebrate success by, don't forget to save. This thing does not automatically save, so make sure you save it. The next piece is to carve out where the wood is going to go. And to do that, let's go ahead and pull up our 3D modeling tool. So this little gear, the arrow next to the little gear, the 3D modeling tools will pop up for anything you type in, but the shell command is a little bit unique. You can't just type shell. You have to click on it from your solid modeling tools over here. So it is right here. And again, if you just hold your cursor over it, it'll give you a little description of how it works. So solid edit, convert 3D solid into a hollow shell with a specified wall thickness. So this is where we're going to add our 1/4 inch wall thickness and just carve out a spot for our plywood to fit in here. So solid edit, they don't call it shell for some reason. You can see here it's coming up as solid edit. And I'm going to click my object, remove faces. I'm flipping it upside down, and I want to remove this bottom face. Enter. And my wall thickness, I want to be a 1/4 inch. So there is my shell. So exit, I'll hit enter. Now there's a couple little pieces that are still not there. I'm going to go ahead and use press pull to push those walls the rest of the way through. I guess maybe I could have removed those walls too, but press pull is easy enough. Now this one, so the shell command works for this angled side. If we want it to fit right flush on top of that piece of plywood, maybe fill in this top little corner. We still have our XY plane over there. So maybe if I 2D wireframe, is that like an optical illusion there? I'm going to go ahead and start up with that polyline command and just make sure my snapping feature is on, and we'll see if we can fill in some kind of a triangle. Let's see if I put my ortho snap on, then I should be able to just bring that straight over and straight up. See if we have an extra triangle in there now. Oh, one more line. If you select something from left to right versus if you select it from right to left. So if I select right to left, it will grab anything it touches. See how the entire object lights up? If I select it from left to right, it's just grabbing that triangle. So that, remember that little selection tool. If I want to join together and not grab the solid, just kind of isolate that little piece here. So shall we press pull, or shall we, let's go ahead and extrude. It's kind of out there on its own. Press pull is usually, it has to already be attached to something. And so we want to bring this all the way back to where it's touching that other triangle. Some of these are like an optical illusion. So we did actually pull it all the way back. It looks like it's offset if you're looking at it strangely, but that is pulling that triangle all the way up. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. So union, join. You can customize your angle settings. Let me know if there's any other videos that you would like to create there. So the next part of this, I like to go back to the UCS World Coordinate System, back from where we started, and then walk over to the layout, that view base command that might take a while, so just wait for it. Let me know if you want me to make some more videos on adding dimensions, and see, that looks like the scale is a little bit. You can right click after you create it and kind of mess around with the scales. Give yourself enough room that you can do a sectional view. So click, enter, and I'm not going to hit enter. Just click, just click, just click, then right click and enter. It's a little bit tricky to get that view base in. And then view section. So this is where we can come in here and carve it on the inside. So there's kind of some interesting internal features. So select parent view, click, and then specify starting. I'm actually going to pull it away from the wall a little bit. So I might turn off my my object snap here. And I'm going to try and just kind of take this right through, click, click, right click, enter. This will pull off my sectional view. So pulling that down, click, right click, enter. And if I turn off all my snaps, I can kind of move this around. That text is looking a little bit large, so right click, quick properties, change this to maybe a little bit smaller text size there. And these, if you don't like where that is, you can actually grab these little handles and it'll update those views for you. So it's slicing the inside of your object there. But yeah, that's probably good to try and keep a nice 90 degrees ortho on there. I can pull those letters down. Maybe I'll turn the ortho. Yeah, get in the habit of just always turning those ortho snaps on and off just based on what you want to do. So drag things around so that they're not off the page, so that you can kind of see what's there. That's a little bit awkward in that teeny little corner there, but. And then make sure your dim styles are set. So dim does all your dimensions. Dim sty will pull this up, and you can either create a new dimension for your tolerances or modify the existing. So modify the existing and make sure you don't have like 5 zeros, and it'll give you a preview of this. You can mess around with how those arrows fit, the arrow size. So maybe you want to make your arrow size just a little bit smaller. And I usually like to set my text height the same as my arrow size. And there's my, make sure those guys. So tolerances, that'll be new. So I'm going to go ahead and set my standard style, and then I'll create a new style. This is where I can go ahead and set maybe some tolerance. So there's symmetrical, deviation, limits, and you're going to put some numbers in here for, so here's my limit. So you'll notice in the kind of the preview here, I now have 2 different, that's what that one would do. So just play around with this stuff. So I'll go ahead and do standard first, set current. And we can add a few standard views. You want to label whatever feature you can see it the most clearly on. That's the part you're going to want to label. So this front view has a pretty clear view of kind of the heights here. So I'll go ahead and, grab this height. And it's a little bit odd just because of that angle, right? So then we can grab this height, which is, again, a little bit of an odd value just because of where that angle is. And if you don't have it exactly like it is in the practice, that's okay. The main idea is that it's going to hold those pieces of wood in place. So just create something that's going to hold that wood in place. Let's go ahead and if I click on here and click on here, we need to get that wall thickness in somewhere. And then add a limit. I'm going to go back to dim style, and I'm going to change to my limits, set current. and come over here and just show that I'm able to add normal dimensions as well as my limits. So we'll say, I know this is a strange angle. We can maybe add a dim ang, show what angle is there. So there's dim radius, dim diameter, dim angle, dim aligned. Oh, I still have that, that limit set. So those are some of the different dimensions. The one for the geometry, so make it 90 degrees or centered, that's going to be in your Q leader. So we'll go ahead and jump into settings on that. And we're going to put tolerance on here. We'll pick a arrow type. So whether you're trying to define surface A is 90 degrees to surface B, or we're just putting in notes here. So let's go ahead and start one of these guys up. And maybe we want this corner to be nice and 90 degrees to one another, right? So if I go ahead and put my object snaps on, we'll say, I would like this wall to be perpendicular, so 90 degrees within 100th inch, and we're going to have to label wall A and wall B. So I want those two walls to be pretty close to 90 degrees to one another. Nice 90-degree angle. So that's that Q leader, that's the kind of the shape of it, whether it's centered or 90 degrees or this feature centered with that feature. That's the Q leader versus the dimensional tolerance. So that's lengths of things. Those are the two different. So yeah, review those tolerances if that was giving you trouble. Okay, hopefully that was helpful.